2017 between world number 56, Y.Soliman of Egypt, and world number 88, Y.Waller of England. I'm joined this evening by David Noon, coach and squash player extraordinaire from Galway. Good evening, David.
Hey, Jim. It's an interesting match, a bit of a... wouldn't say it's in any way similar styles. Yusuf, who's incredibly fast, skillful. Adrian, who's a lot taller, skinnier, maybe not quite as fast, but strong, tactically very good. I think it'll be an interesting match. My money would probably be on Yusuf, to be honest, even though he's the much lower ranked player. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I'll bow to your superior knowledge on that one, David. I'll ask you for a game score prediction now, if you don't mind.
I'm going to say 3-1.
Okay, we have that on the board, 3-1 Solomon from David. So Y.Soliman, he's 20 years of age. He was born in Cairo. He trains with Hadrian Stiff in Bristol. Y.Waller is 27-year-old. I'm not sure who he's coached by. Paul Carter, okay, very well-known English coach. Of course, Y.Waller would have been part of the English setup as a junior all the way through.
That's right. He was the first Englishman ever to win at under 13s, under 15s, under 17s, and under 19s for the national. Got the national title at all age groups. Then, the ones that get the British Open, you've got Y.Soliman was a British Open winner 2 years ago. And he also won the British Open at 13s, 17s, and 19s. I think he missed out on the 15s one. So we've got some serious pedigree here.
All other things being even, you have to say that Y.Soliman with a bright squash future ahead.
We're in for a treat now. I think we're going to see him moving and playing his shots. He's an incredibly fast player.
It's always great to see a contrast in styles, no matter what sport you're involved with. So we could be in for a real cracker here.
Exactly what Adrian's going to be looking for is those opportunities to bring the ball in short, get the ball hitting front wall, hitting the floor, and clinging to the side wall. One of the few ways you're going to get a winner against Y.Soliman. He's just, as I said, he's so fast. So you're going to look for those clinical finishes. Y.Soliman has had quite a grueling time of it recently. He played last week in Galway in our 10K. He won that. Seeded number 4, but came through and won it. He had a 5-setter with Abdullah Al-Tamimi yesterday as well. Another guy who's just lightning fast. So I think because he is so explosive, he might feel it in his legs, but if you look at his legs, they're like tree trunks. He's so well built, very low center of gravity. I think maybe he'll be able to back these big hard matches up and see how he goes.
In stature, actually, he reminds me a little bit of Amir Shabana. He has that maybe a slightly version, but and will of course have that incredibly explosive movement when required and economical when required, and that is one hell of a forehand finish. there's the speed you're talking about there, David.
It's a real treat to see. For anybody who hasn't seen live a match like this, when you have someone, a world class, well, two world class players, but Soliman especially, everything he does is a little bit different. He's got that really explosive speed, but if you watch his movement, he's never too stationary. He's always kind of fluent, and he's never stuck on the tee. His recovery to the tee is superb as well. And when he hits it almost sounds different. You know, it is that faster racket head speed again that was mentioned earlier today. He's got it all, I think.
So you mentioned the British Open earlier, David. So is that the under-19 that he won?
Yeah, 2 years ago he won the under-19 British Open. Usually that would mean that you're favourite to win the World Junior Championships as well. So he would have been maybe ranked number 1 in the world, but he lost to Diego Elias in the World Open final, or the World Junior Championship, should I say. To win the British Open, yeah, you need serious talent. You're the best in the world for your age if you manage to do that. We're lucky enough to have our own British junior champion at the moment with Dennis Gillespie, who won the under 13. Oh, big rally.
I sometimes think with players who are incredibly fast, as Yusuf clearly is, that sometimes you can fall into the trap of just being a little bit too willing to retrieve.
Yes, typically you're right, but I think in the case with the Egyptians, they tend to use their speed in an attacking form as well. Be interesting if for anyone looking at some tactics, if you watch Soliman, how he brings the ball. If he brings the ball in short, we might see it now in a couple of minutes. How if he uses a boast, for instance, if he hits the boast, he'll generally push up very, very far. So push right up, almost further up the court, above the tee line, and look to use his speed as a really aggressive attacking shot. So it's definitely different to your typical speed.
One of Mir Shabana's favourite tactics was to he was always looking for that loose cross court. So he like a lot of players, because the ball is played down the backhand wall so often, will perhaps stay a little bit over on the backhand side, whereas Amir Shabana would go the other way. And he won quite a lot of points that way, because players just didn't expect that to be there.
Regarded as the greatest ever player by many people. Spent some time with Malcolm Wilstrom over the last year. Malcolm had a view that he had an opinion on a few players that they might have been the best in certain areas. So his own son James would have been extremely accurate, and he said he was one of the best kind of with that backhand drop. But his opinion is he doesn't hand out compliments too easy. And he said that Shabana was the greatest player that he's seen play, all-round player. I think that's a serious compliment coming from a man like Malcolm.
I think one of the things that young players, and perhaps even older players, can learn from somebody like Amir Shaban is, he never brought the referee into the game. So he would query something, but only to a certain extent, and then he would get on with it. And something I think, of course, Malcolm Wills would absolutely understand and insist on from some of the players that he's coached.
Yeah, it's true about Shabana. He got on with things and very fair. If you have that skill level, is hard to come by anymore, though. He was amazing.
So a useful lead, 7-3 for Adrian in the first game. We were talking yesterday in the commentary box about how technically good all the English players. I mean, I think perhaps back a few years ago they had a reputation as being boring. Is probably a brilliant finish from Youssef there. I think the game has moved on, and the Egyptians definitely have more. I think they definitely have more flair, but I mean, all of the top pros can hit winners when the opportunity arises.
Yeah, so I think one of the more promising English juniors at the moment, or not juniors so to say, but English young player is Josh Masters. I mentioned that in commentary already about his racket head speed, very Egyptian-esque, very quick, but Waller is lovely. He does have a lovely technique, and he's very smart about shot selections. Are very, very good. Stroke. No, I was wrong. It's only a left.
Not sure I agree with that one, David.
Maybe it's because he's so fast. The ref thought he should get out of the way. But you'll see now with Waller, he got the lead from using the. Let's say he's going to tightening up very well from a loose ball from Soliman. So Soliman is in any way loose. Waller's very good at keeping it very, very tight. You're not getting the outright winners, but you're there now. Oh no. Not going to be able to cling the ball to that wall and just. There we go. Set up the rally very well. He has a few of those attributes where, you know, he's very high wrist position, very high cocked wrist, gives you a lot of control through the ball. All the time looking for the loose shot so he can use his racket skills to bring a ball in short, keep it really tight.
As we mentioned earlier, Youssef, he's 20 years of age, Adrian is 27. I mean, there is a view out there that you don't mature as a squash player, or sorry, you're at your strongest, your best, when you're perhaps in your late 20s. Do you think that is the case, David, and is a factor in this match?
I think that is the case, especially nowadays. If you look at our world number one at the moment, Goldier, he's well into 30s. Maturity definitely stands to you, but at the same time, when you have a talent like Soliman, it's slightly different. It could be a telling factor in this match. We'll see. Oh, big mistake. Keep panicking a bit there. He let the ball come right in on. Forced. A bit too much movement on the ball from Soliman. That was amazing.
And amazing is the word for that. Open racket face. Boom.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, I guess there's an element of that there. He's well behind in this game. At the same time, you have to have the technique to do it, so we'll give him credit there. Big point here. Unforced error at the end there from Youssef, but good example, David, of how the pace picks up. You know, at the end of these games. You know, when both players know that is important.
Yeah, it's true. There's a first game, very important game, most people, but again, to allude to the Egyptian factor, you look at Awad on the World Tour, he often loses the first game, no matter who he's playing. So we'll see how what happens here.
Interesting that you talk about Gawad. I was watching Squash TV earlier, and he was it's a replay from the Alguna tournament, which happened a couple of weeks ago, and he was playing Greg Gaultier in the final. But they were talking about the fact that Greg Gaultier, Nick Matthew, James Willstrop, that after their warm-up, you know, they're literally dripping with sweat. And Gawad, he hardly does a warm-up at all, so they weren't surprised that he loses a lot of first games, you know.
Same when he won his World Championship. He just strolled on to 20 minutes, strolled into the club. He hadn't warmed up at all.
It's a big advantage to your opponent, though, at that level, you know. A proper warm-up, I guess.
Still young, though. Those boys you mentioned are a little bit older. I think they need the warm-up more than Gawad does. But definitely, without a doubt, you'll notice as his career progresses and the pressure of he's now world number one. Actually, I actually said Gaultier was world number one, but he's not. It's Gawad has taken the world number one spot.
From May. Is it from May?
Is it from May? Okay. I think so. I know that even though he lost that final, he gets the number one spot. But the pressure of staying at the top, I think he's relatively new to the top, Gawad. So I think the warm-up situation will probably change. His whole his preparation in general for practice, for tournaments, for everything will change, and he'll need to be extremely professional to stay at the top. One thing getting to the top, a whole other thing staying up there, I think.
Absolutely. It takes mental discipline to warm up, you know, because if you love the game, you get to the court, you have a ball and a racket, and, you know, the temptation is, you know what, start hitting a few balls here. But, of course, if you're a professional, it's a different story.
I was lucky enough to be around John White when he was world number one, and he spent most of his time away from the squash club. It was all mental preparation and physical. Spent a lot of time with physical trainers and making sure that he was in the best shape he could be mentally and physically. And he knew his squash was good enough, and it was just about preparing for the match. But you mentioned Willstrop. Waller about to serve here. 1-love up. But our fellow Irishman Brian Byrne was at the World Championships that Gawad won earlier this year, and he witnessed James Willstrop's warm-up, and James Willstrop warmed up for 2 hours before his match and warmed down for 2 hours after his match. So it's almost like a day's work to play a match, you know, very professional, but that's what to do to avoid injuries. I think we'll see the second game hot up a little bit here. I think Solomon needed some time to settle.
So these two players, I mean, I wasn't perhaps paying close enough attention, but I didn't see anybody talk to either of them, you know, after the first. I mean, how important do you think that is, David, you know, to have sort of a coach on your side and a few words between games?
It helps. It definitely helps. None of these players will have coaches traveling with them. What's happening here?
John Massarello just asking Y.Soliman if he has done his lace correctly. Does not want to see the game interrupted. And perhaps he has seen that tactic before. I'm not saying that he has, but it's certainly a tactic that you'd see at club level.
Get yourself a breather. Would you be accustomed to things like that, Jim?
I'm not a proponent myself, David, but I do know a few.
Name a few.
Can't do that on air, I'm afraid.
But to get back to what you were talking about, I don't think many of them travel coaches. It would be a luxury, and definitely would help. I think if you're on home soil, you're lucky you'll have coaches with you, but generally it's your fellow countrymen that will help out in between games, and I see that a lot with the Egyptians. They help each other out. So the French are renowned for it as well. The French are very much. That was amazing. He picked that one out of the sky, didn't he? He was using all of his height. He's been quite impressive going short, Waller. Very clinical.
He's been very composed. He played Arthur Gaskin, the Irish #1, in the first round. And I think at one stage in the match, you know, things did get scrappy. But certainly he's been very accurate this evening.
Probably one of his tactics against a player like Solomon, he knows is so good. His composure is essential in being relaxed, so he can play his shots just like he did there. That was an excellent shot. Bounced twice before the service line. Solomon looks a little bit worse for wear here. He's just going for shots. Looks like he's lost his focus a little bit. Glad I didn't put a bet on what you did. I love the score 5-1. 5-1. It can so quickly become 5-3, and then it's, you know, back to neutral almost. This is a big point in my book.
I think that's you know, that's one of the advantages of pointer rally scoring, is that you play a couple of winners, you get a little, you lose focus for a couple of points, and your opponent is back in it. I mean, I think Y.Soliman at this stage, his length is very poor, you know, and that really is costing him.
He doesn't look overly focused at the moment, does he? Like, he's missing that one there. That's such an important point.
That's a superb finish from Y.Waller. I think for some players, and Y.Waller is one of them, I mean, if you give him unforced errors, then, I mean, he just loves those. That's meat and drink. He'll keep his head down and he'll say happy days, and I'm going to play the next rally exactly the same way. And of course, that's what you need to do as a pro. Well, as any squash player.
In terms of any squash player, if you look at Y.Waller's racket preparation, something that you hear from the days when you first start playing squash, people talk about keeping your racket up and all those basic things. And as you get better at the sport, you can sometimes forget about that. I'm so impressed with the space that Adrian takes on the ball. Just waits for his opportunities. Any loose ball, the racket is there, and he's very clinical. And it's I suppose technique. It's his technique. It's very, very good.
I mean, and if you think about how like Adrian Waller, he's a big, strong guy, so maybe he's tempted. You know what? I don't have to get the racket up that far on either side, but you know what? His technique is superb. He does it every time, and it's it's kind of a squash exhibition at this stage, really, from him.
It is. Yeah. When he has his racket, the way he's holding his racket up as well is. It's making sure that he doesn't actually get too close to the ball. He's running away with this. This is almost a feeding session at the moment. He's just look at this. Soliman definitely needs a coach now. Get out from there, Jim.
I think so. I'm not sure I'm the right man for the job, David.
Tell him to tighten up a bit.
Yeah, he definitely needs to. He needs to tighten up his drives. He needs to recover his length. And
Reset almost.
yeah, he needs to reset. And even if he feels he's going to lose this match, you're not going to get a better training session. So really, he should give it his all, maximum effort, concentrate on a couple of things, and see what happens.
Waller's going to be very confident going forward from here. So he's up against it, but never.
Never say never. We've seen plenty of, not miraculous recoveries, but recoveries from 2-love down and 7 or 8-1 down. And invariably what happens in this situation is that the player who's leading by so much just changes one little and perhaps tries to short rallies, just change the way they play the rallies. And all of a sudden, things change. And then, your opponent gets close, you get a little bit nervous. There have been lots of examples where the player who has been that far ahead has ended up losing. I'm not sure Adrian Waller is going to fall into that trap. From what I've seen of him, I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't look like that's going to happen. But again, if Soliman steps up the pace and forces a few mistakes out of Waller, you never know what could happen. But he definitely needs to stop feeding him. It's the third time he's changed his racket. Well, it's the same racket, but different strings from the first, second, and third game. That shows us.
Got a good eye for detail there, David.
Well, the same thing happened in Galway actually. He was having I had to regrip his. I was refereeing his final, and I had to regrip his racket at the end of the second game. So.
Maybe they should introduce that to the PSA World Tour. An extra job for the referee, regripping the players' rackets. Not sure to go down that well.
I'm lucky enough to have a shop on site. But no, that's something as well. He doesn't look like he's settled. He's chopping and changing his rackets. He's not happy in there at the moment. That was quick.
That was the pickup of the tournament so far for me. Unbelievable speed.
This could be the sign of something. He's going to mount an attack from here. The Waller to neutralize this attack. See what he can do.
A little bit harsh, perhaps, David.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have given a stroke there, but maybe it's because the referee sees that Waller's getting winners in that area quite regularly, and he's going for that. His short game is very short. So very impressive. Another unforced error, winning position. I don't think Waller, from that position, Waller hasn't made an error yet. Soliman must have made, I'm not counting, but I'm going to say 7, 8 at least.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have to hit a winner from there. I mean, you should, as much as the pros ever will, err on the side of hitting the ball over the tin, because you've dominated the tee. The guy has much more ground to cover, so really you need to be making those. And
Commentator's curse.
And Adrian Waller does exactly the same thing.
What I've liked about Waller is the way he's putting the ball in short. He's putting it in, like you said, he's not necessarily in for a winner, but he's putting it in with the intent of keeping the ball so tight that it often is a winner. It doesn't look like a spectacular winner, but the ball is really stuck to the wall. It's what they call a squeeze. Sometimes is that ball is just, it's so tight to the wall. You're there ready to play it, but you can't really pick it off the wall. I think he's doing that so well today. But it's a lesson for any of us players. That's all running, trying to get this spectacular. 3-2 Waller. Keeping the no front. I think he might just do this for the rest of the game.
There's been a couple of examples where Yusuf, he's had plenty of time. And when you have plenty of time, sometimes you can rush it, because you think, I have the opponent out of position. But the ball was good, and we spoke about this yesterday. Along the top of the tin, there's some loose plaster. It's hollow behind it. That was a perfect drop. The ball wasn't down, in actual fact, but look, it made a funny sound. But I think somebody should brief the referees, perhaps, about that area along the front wall.
That was harsh. That's not going to help his mental situation at the moment. He's. It is the case, though, especially when you're dropping a tin, like we mentioned already, that the tin is usually 2 inches higher. Maybe the plaster behind it isn't quite as sturdy as when it's normally at the 19 inches. It can sound a bit funny. Reactions from Waller. Oh, good rally. Great rally. 5-2. The mountain gets higher and higher for Soliman to climb. See him coming back from here, do you, Jim?
I don't think so. I think Adrian Waller is too steady to allow that to happen. He's too good a pro. Although if you can hit shots like that, there's always hope.
That's exactly what we're talking about. In that, you know, it's not squeeze. It's a squeeze. That's exactly what it is. Because Solomon's there to play the ball, but he just couldn't play it. It was too tight. It's not like the normal shot. It's not like your drive when the ball is just tight to the wall. He's hitting it in there, looking for the front wall to hit the floor, then the side wall. It just puts a different spin on the ball, and he's done it so well today, getting winner after winner. And a bit of luck to add to it.
Yeah, that's maybe when you're playing as well as Adrian is, sometimes you get the luck as well.
Driving Solomon crazy.
7-3.
He's not happy in there.
Beautiful finish from Soliman there.
You'll notice, Jim, it has to be very special to produce a winner. Waller, his reactions are very impressive. I didn't expect him to be as quick off the mark, even though he is a top 40 player. Of his capabilities, but I'm very impressed with his reactions.
He moves incredibly well for a big man. I mean, there's no question, and he's moving particularly well tonight. Seems very relaxed. Commentators curse again. Hits it into the bottom of the tin. And there's some hope for Youssef here. It's very difficult to tell how fit they are. I mean, it's possible that Y.Soliman can go at this pace for another to the fifth, all the way to the end. You never know.
6-7.
I mean, that is just a fantastic finish.
And now 8-6.
That was a big point too, Jim.
Absolutely.
He's winning the big ones. He's doing everything right, isn't he?
9-6.
I think he's got a plan, and he's just got his head down and stuck to that plan, and it's worked perfectly for him.
Although that attempt at a forehand volley drop was like one of mine, David. So to give Adrian Waller that much time, you're going to be in trouble.
Says Solomon has been in Ireland now for coming up on 2 weeks, so he could be mentally drained, physically drained, out of a routine. But that's the game they're playing. They should be well used to it. But the professional life is tough.
Sure is. Ooh. Probably the right decision there, David.
I think it's a bit too loose.
Yeah.
not a betting man, Jim. This was very clinical from Waller. Again, just gets it all back. Could be a stroke. Still in it.
And that's a 10. Match ball.
The old shoelace. The Jim Flynn trick. Does Waller look a bit tired to you, Jim?
He doesn't look. He'll look a bit tired, but then I think, you know, with the pros, they get a second wind for a finish, and you know, in a way, it was kind of a microcosm of the match there. Loose ball, Adrian Waller puts it away. Fantastic finish to a great match.
Super match. And he finished it the way he played the whole match. He just used that backhand tight